right? So what is most likely is that when Trump comes in, he's going to force them into a settlement by threatening to take away all their funding and weapons, in which case they would be screwed. So, but now the problem is that Russia already knows that, right? So what is most likely going to happen is that Russia is going to keep about 20%, maybe, whatever the percentage is of Ukraine. So their invasion is going to be partly rewarded, and that sucks, and I hate it, but that is the most likely outcome. Now, there's another possible reason why Biden ordered these missiles, allowed the missiles to strike inside Russia, which is further escalation. And why would escalation help? Well, it wouldn't help us, it wouldn't help the Russians or the Ukrainians, but it would help the military-industrial complex. And they would love to dig us further into this war so that it's harder to get out later. And so look, I get the price of getting out, which is that you lose a piece of Ukraine and you encourage Putin, because that's a second country, third time, second country he's gone in somewhere, grabbed land and gotten away with it. By the way, it also encourages Netanyahu, who now looks at Putin and goes, hey, apparently you could just steal people's land. So we always wanted Gaza and West Bank. Maybe we'll go steal that, and Trump's gonna let us steal that too, right? But nevertheless, escalating now when Russia is not going to retreat and causing a major escalation that might dig all of us back into this war is not a good idea. It's a terrible idea, ordered by Biden, I suppose, or whoever the hell's in charge.
Notable though that civilians tragically have been killed in this war, and I do think it's notable that while tens of thousands of innocent civilians have been killed in Gaza, a tiny stretch of land by the IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, in the case of Ukraine, Russia has killed 11,700 civilians. But Russia, public enemy number one, according to the United States government. The Israeli government, doesn't matter how many innocent civilians they kill in Gaza or the West Bank or in Lebanon, we're gonna back them no matter what, regardless of what administration or which political party is in charge in this country. That's the reality of the situation. Just a side note on that. Now, real quick, how has Russia responded to this new foreign policy by the Biden administration? Well, Vladimir Putin back in September had said this: the use of long-range weapons will mean that NATO countries, the United States and European countries, are at war with Russia. And if this is the case, then bearing in mind the change in the essence of the conflict, we will make appropriate decisions in response to the threats that will be posed to us. And so that was in September. Now that the decision has been made by Biden, Putin and the Russian government is saying we will respond, and the response will be tangible, basically continuing on with their threats. The Biden administration, again, justifying this because they claim, well, this is a new front in the war. We're now dealing with North Korea's involvement in supporting Russia. And what's also—
So what? Why does that make a difference?
I don't think it does.
Russia is being more aggressive. They were already plenty aggressive. They invaded the country and took giant amount of land. Bring in North Koreans, so what? I don't, they're just looking for any excuse to make the war bigger and worse. So one of our members, Preston Parks, wrote in, Biden locking in his pro-war legacy. That's right. He's gonna be known as the guy who authorized the Iraq war, who authorized Israel to kill anyone they like, take any land they like. Now saying to Ukraine, maybe you start a giant war with Russia. By the way, and Anna's right, it's not just this needlessly step that takes it much greater escalation, but also in the beginning, we told Russia that we would not encroach on Eastern Europe. And we did that when the Soviet Union was falling apart to assure them. We assured, among other people, Putin that we wouldn't. And then we encroached and we encroached and we encroached and we got next to his grandmother's house. And then we said, oh my God, we are so innocent. So we're not innocent at all, and we should not have gone into Eastern Europe with NATO. It was totally needless, right? And especially threatening it in Ukraine was just criminal negligence, okay? Now, having said that, again, nothing justifies the invasion, but also nothing justifies a last-minute escalation on your way out, other than to say, don't get it twisted. The Democratic Party now loves war. Joe Biden, our standard bearer, loves war. And we'd like to lose further elections because the American people hate war, but we're the new neocons. So congratulations, Joe Biden, for screwing the Democratic Party and the American voters one more time.
All right, I want to move on to some updates in regard to Donald Trump's cabinet picks, because the infighting has begun.
And there's already been some infighting behind the scenes and jockeying between different potential candidates.
At one point during what the sources described as a massive blowup, this comes amid new reports that Musk is also becoming a source of infighting the Trump transition team surrounding the choice for Treasury Secretary.
Well, at the very center of that infighting is the battle for who Donald Trump will choose to be his Treasury Secretary. And there is some significant disagreement between Elon Musk and others who are involved in Trump's transition process. Now, initially, as we had reported earlier, Donald Trump was considering two specific individuals for the role. That includes Howard Lutnick, who is the CEO of Wall Street firm Cantor Fitzgerald. That is the individual who is in charge of Trump's transition, and it appears that is the individual that Elon Musk would like Trump to choose as Treasury Secretary. The other individual is Scott Bessent, who's the founder of the investment firm Key Square Capital, and he's also a former money manager for George Soros. But apparently Trump has actually soured on both of these individuals and is now looking to interview other contenders at Mar-a-Lago this week. Lutnick, who has been running Trump's transition operation, has gotten on Trump's nerves lately. Trump has privately expressed frustration that Mr. Lutnick has been hanging around him too much and that he has been manipulating the transition process for his own ends. Now, look, this is an anonymous source who spoke to the New York Times. I don't know how real this is. What I do know is that if you're in charge of the transition process and you have to manage the transition process, yeah, there's a lot of leadership that goes into that. So if Trump is in fact annoyed by him, I'm curious what kind of manipulation he's referring to. But with that in mind, a person familiar with the process who spoke on the condition of anonymity described the battle between Lutnick and Bessent as a knife fight, with Lutnick as the primary aggressor. And as for Bessent, he is he's still being considered for the role. But he could also be chosen by Trump to lead a different government agency, maybe the leader of the National Economic Council. We don't know yet. But what's interesting is Elon Musk's role in this entire so-called knife fight, because Musk is not a fan of Bessent. He calls him business as usual, and he's not in favor of Trump choosing him. He posted on X writing, "Would be interesting to hear more people weigh in on this for Donald Trump to consider feedback. My view is that Bessent is a business as usual choice, whereas Howard Lutnick will actually enact change. Business as usual is driving America bankrupt, so we need to change one way or another." These are two incredibly wealthy Wall Street guys. I'm very curious, Cenk, why he favors Lutnick so much more. Because I see them as very similar. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have theories. So first of all, you should check out the interview I did that we put up on Young Turks on YouTube over the weekend. Tim Newell is CEO of Aspiration. Aspiration is a great company, one of our sponsors. But he worked with Elon Musk at Tesla and Solar City, and that's why I wanted to talk to him. And he said, we all knew people would go into meetings with Elon Musk, but we didn't know who was coming out. So Elon Musk is not a guy who is overly kind and caring when it comes to getting him, the most generous interpretation to Elon Musk is to get the job done, right? So he's no nonsense, period, and he fires people at great velocity, okay? And everybody knows this because of what he did at Twitter. So when he's being the richest man in the world and the CEO of all those major companies, he's not used to people debating him, right? And Tim also talked about that. Well, a lot of debates, okay? You do this and you do it lightning quick, otherwise I fire you, is his modus operandi, right? So when he has to deal with Boris Epstein, right? And you remember he's the guy that in 2016 was doing like a podcast or something for Trump, and he yelled, "Saramis!" Like that's him, right? So he's been loyal to Trump all along. Does he have his own agenda? Of course, right? Has he been leaking to the press as Elon Musk's suggestion? I'd be surprised if he wasn't. They almost all do, right? So So of course that clash is coming. That clash is inevitable, based just on personalities alone, and Elon always getting what he wants, right? But with Trump in the room, you can't always get what you want, and so this is going to be something that's going to keep on happening. Okay, now to the substance of the Treasury picks. You could tell, first of all, as soon as I knew that Musk was on Lutnick's side, my educated guess was that Lutnick is in favor of Bitcoin and crypto and all that stuff. And in just the pictures we were showing you, he was shown speaking at a Bitcoin conference and convention, right? So because Elon has a plan, I don't know what it is, with crypto, and he cares a lot about it, and it's not an accident that he called his whatever the hell government organization that Trump is going to create for him, Doge, and that's named after his own cryptocurrency. So it's, to me, I would be shocked if Lutnick didn't do whatever Musk wanted on crypto, but apparently maybe Bessent won't necessarily do that. Now, what they have in common is Donald Trump is not going to pick one of the poors to be a Secretary of Treasury.
No.
He doesn't. In fact, he said that in his first term. He said, I don't want people that are poor in my cabinet. I only want rich because they're successful.
No, he's made that clear in this upcoming cabinet, in fact. And for whatever reason, he's eyeing various Wall Street billionaires for these roles. And yeah, you're right. He sees their success on Wall Street as like one of the main reasons why he would want them to serve in his cabinet, and in particular in the Treasury role. And so there are two other individuals, Cenk, that he's considering that I want to talk a little bit about, because the New York Times is reporting that the president-elect is impressed with billionaire Mark Rowan, another individual who has close ties to Wall Street. He's the chief executive and co-founder of Apollo Global Management. But this is my favorite. This is my absolute favorite. Trump has also remarked that Kevin Warsh is smart and handsome.
Oh, dude, that's what we need in a Treasury Secretary. A good-looking feller.
Obviously, that made me want to look him up and see if he's hot. And you know what? He's fine. I will allow it.
That's all right, but yeah, maybe he looks better. Anyway, who cares? Who cares? But Trump, is that essential casting? Okay, so guys, why does Trump want billionaire Wall Street guys as his Treasury Secretary when he was a populist? Because he's always wanted to be in the club. There are two reasons. That's the first. And so those guys run the club. Cantor Fitzgerald, Apollo Management. By the way, notice that Bessent is a former money manager for George Soros. Now, I don't have a problem with that, but I heard the right wing has a problem with that, right?
Right, exactly, yeah.
But all these guys are the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no difference between them other than maybe how much they're gonna let Elon do crypto scams or whatever, right? But for Trump, he wants to be in the club. So he's like, yay, I get to pick one of the Wall Street billionaires. Oh, then they're gonna come kiss my ass. Who's in the club now, bitches?
But didn't he pick a Wall Street billionaire last time around? How did that work out for him?
Well, he did perfectly fine. You know why? Because he did giant corporate tax cuts, just added 40% to our debt, and then all those guys then gave him more money this time around, and he won re-election. So, I mean, it's screwed over the country. $2 trillion went straight to corporate coffers and out of our pockets, in essence, over the long run. But it worked out great for Trump, so he's going to do again. He's going to do another corporate tax cut. That's why he's bringing the guys who would benefit most from that. But there's a second reason why. The second reason is, once he's out of office, you're gonna want a couple of billionaire friends who might help you out from time to time, right? So whoever the Treasury Secretary is, they're going to be 100% in favor of a corporate robbery of this country, and that's exactly what they'll execute.